What if the person who walked away from you never actually stopped thinking about you? Not once. Not even on their best days. There's something that almost nobody talks about. Something that sits quietly underneath the surface of every separation. Every goodbye that didn't feel like a goodbye. Every silence that stretched longer than it was supposed to. And it has to do with something deeper than human emotion. It has to do with what the angels see. Because here's what I want you to consider right now, in this moment. You've been carrying something, maybe for weeks, maybe for months, maybe for longer than you'd like to admit. There's a name that crosses your mind at unexpected moments. In the middle of the grocery store, right before you fall asleep, when a certain song comes on. And every time you push it back down, you tell yourself to move on. You tell yourself they've moved on. But what if the angels have been trying to tell you something different? What if the regret on the other side is heavier than anything you've imagined? Stay with me, because what's coming in this message was meant to find you today. There's a concept that the angels have communicated across centuries, across cultures, across every spiritual tradition that has ever tried to put divine wisdom into human words. And it is this: energy never lies. You can train your mouth to say, "I'm fine." You can train your face to smile at the right moments. You can even train your mind to stay busy enough that the ache doesn't hit until nighttime. But your energy tells the whole story. And the angels, these beings of light who exist outside of time, who are not limited by the walls we build around our hearts, they read that energy like an open book. And here's what makes this so profound, so quietly devastating, and so unexpectedly hopeful at the same time. The person who left your life, the one who chose distance, the one who went silent, their energy tells a story too. And the angels have been watching it. What they see is not what that person shows the world. It's not the social media posts. It's not the confident exterior. It's not the new routines they built to convince themselves they made the right choice. What the angels see is what happens in the 3 a.m. moments. What happens when the noise stops. What happens when the performance of moving on gets too exhausting to maintain. And in those moments, in those raw, unguarded, honest moments, the regret surfaces, not as a passing thought, not as a fleeting what if, but as something that sits in the chest and refuses to move. Something that feels almost physical. The angels describe it as a tether, an invisible cord of energy that doesn't sever just because two people stop talking. Distance doesn't cut it. Time doesn't dissolve it. And the weight of that uncut cord, the person who chose to walk away feels it more than you might ever realize. Now I want to pause for a second and really let that land. Because if you've been the one wondering, questioning, replaying conversations, asking yourself what you could have done differently, I need you to hear this. The questioning is not one-sided. The replaying is not one-sided. The weight of what was left unfinished does not live only in you. It lives in both directions. The angels are very clear about this. Separation is never as clean as appears from the outside. Think about water for a moment. When you pull your hand out of a still pool, the water doesn't just stay perfectly calm. It ripples. It reacts. It remembers the shape of what was there. Your presence in someone's life, your genuine, deep, soul-level presence, leave that kind of impression. And no matter how much someone tries to still the surface again, those ripples don't just disappear. They move outward, they settle, and then, when everything is quiet, they come back to the center, to the place where you once were. The angels want you to understand that what you meant to this person is written in a language that exists beneath words. It's written in habits they haven't been able to break, in the way they still notice things that remind them of you, in the small, almost invisible hesitations before they make decisions you used to make together. You may not see any of this. You may have no evidence of it in the physical world. But the angels don't operate in the physical world. They operate in truth. And the truth they are bringing to you today is that the impact you had was real, it was significant, and it has not faded away or maybe even you, thought it would. Let's talk about something that most people never consider when they're on the painful side of separation. Most people spend their energy trying to understand the why. Why did they leave? Why did they pull away? Why did someone who seemed so present, so connected, so real, suddenly choose absence? And that question, that desperate search for a logical answer, keeps so many beautiful souls trapped in a loop that the angels genuinely grieve over. Because the why that your human mind is searching for, the clean, rational, satisfying explanation, almost never exists. And the reason it doesn't exist is because what happened between you and this person was never entirely a human experience. It was a soul experience. And soul experiences don't follow the rules of logic. The angels speak about something called a soul mirror. It's not a popular term. You won't find it in most spiritual textbooks, but it is something that divine messengers have been communicating to sensitive, aware, open-hearted people for a very long time. A soul mirror is a person who enters your life and reflects back to you the parts of yourself that are most alive, your depth, your capacity for love, your hunger for something real and meaningful. An encounter with a soul mirror is never accidental. It is orchestrated. It is intentional at the highest level. These meetings are arranged not by human will, but by something far greater. Here is where it gets truly remarkable, and where the regret we're talking about today begins to make complete sense. When someone walks away from a soul mirror, they don't just walk away from a person. They walk away from a version of themselves that they may never find access to again. Because that depth, that aliveness, that feeling of being truly seen, it doesn't transfer to just anyone. It was specific. It was particular. It was tied to the unique frequency of your connection. And when they chose distance, when they chose what felt like the safer or easier or more logical path, they unknowingly closed a door to a room inside themselves. And now, in the quiet, in the honest moments, they feel that closed door every single day. This is why the regret the angels speak of is so much heavier than ordinary regret. Ordinary regret says, I wish I had made a different choice. The regret of walking away from a genuine soul connection says something far more haunting than that. It says, I don't know who I am without that. It says, everything feels a little less vivid now. It says, I thought I was choosing freedom, but what I actually chose was a kind of emptiness I didn't see coming. And that realization doesn't arrive all at once. It creeps in slowly. It builds over weeks and months. It disguises itself as restlessness, as dissatisfaction, as an unnamed longing that no new experience seems to fill. I want you to think about a fire for a moment, not a small candle flame, a real fire, the kind that fills a room with warmth and light, and makes everything feel alive. Now imagine someone deciding to step outside into the cold night, believing the fresh air would be better for them. At first, maybe it does feel like relief. The intensity of the fire was a lot. The heat was sometimes overwhelming. The outside feels manageable, controllable. But as the night goes on, as the temperature drops, as the darkness settles in, what do they think about? They think about the fire. They think about the warmth. They think about how alive they felt standing in that light. And no amount of cold night air convinces them that stepping outside was the right choice. Not truly, not deep down. You were that fire. Your connection was that warmth. And the angels are telling you today that someone is standing in the cold night, remembering exactly what it felt like to be near something that real. The distance they chose is not evidence that what you had didn't matter. It is, in the most painful and honest spiritual sense, evidence that it mattered more than they knew how to handle. There's a question that the angels ask, not to judge, not to condemn, but to illuminate. And it is this: what does a person do when they encounter something they are not yet ready to receive? Think about that carefully, because this is at the heart of so much human pain, so much unnecessary distance, so many connections that were real, that were profound, that were absolutely meant, but that one person walked away from not because the love wasn't there, but because the readiness wasn't. And this distinction, this quiet, crucial, often overlooked distinction, changes everything about how you understand what happened between you and this person. Readiness is not about feelings. This is something angels are very deliberate about communicating, because it is so widely misunderstood. People assume that if someone truly cares, if someone truly feels the depth of a connection, they will automatically be ready to show up for it. They will automatically be brave enough, open enough, healed enough to embrace what is being offered. But that is not how the human soul works. That is not the reality of what people carry inside them. The old wounds, the inherited fears, the survival patterns that were built long before you ever entered the picture. Someone can feel everything. Someone can recognize the rarity of what they found. In you. Someone can know, on a level that goes deeper than words, that what you two had was not ordinary, and still not be ready, still choose to retreat, still choose a familiar pain of distance over the unfamiliar vulnerability of staying. And here is what the angels want you to sit with, because this is where genuine healing and genuine understanding begin to open up. Their unreadiness was never a reflection of your worth. Read that again. Their unreadiness was never, not even for a single moment, a measurement of your value, your lovability, your significance. It was a reflection of their own internal landscape, their own unfinished inner work, their own relationship with fear. And the angels grieve deeply over how many extraordinary souls have internalized someone else's limitations as their own inadequacy. How many people are walking around right now, carrying the weight of rejection that was never actually about them? Now, let's go one layer deeper, because the angels don't stop at comfort. They push toward truth. And the truth is that when someone is not ready for the depth of what you offer and they walk away, they carry the awareness of that unreadiness with them. It doesn't disappear. It follows them. It shows up in every subsequent connection that feels hollow in comparison. It shows up in the moments when there was someone new and something is missing, some quality of realness, some depth of resonance. And they can't quite name what it is, but they feel the absence of it like a missing frequency, a sound that should be there, but isn't. Let me give you an image that I think will stay with you. Imagine someone who grew up in a small town, never traveling far, perfectly comfortable in what they knew, and then one day they find themselves standing at the edge of the ocean for the very first time. And the ocean is enormous. It is beautiful beyond anything they had words for. It is overwhelming in the best possible way. And they feel something in their chest that they have never felt before, something that is equal parts wonder and terror. And in that moment of terror, they turn around. They go back to what they know. They go back to the small and the manageable and the familiar. But here is what happens next. Here is what the angels want you to understand. For the rest of their life, they hear the ocean, not literally, but in every quiet moment, in every still night, in every stretch of ordinary days. They hear it. They remember standing at that edge. They remember what it felt like. And they know, with a certainty that lives in their bones, that nothing they chose instead was as vast, as real, as alive as what they turned away from. You were the ocean. Your connection was that vastness. And the person who turned away is not living freely. They are living with the sound of waves they chose not to stay for. That is a regret the angels speak of, not a passing feeling, a permanent knowing. There is something the angels revealed that I need to share with you carefully, because it requires a certain kind of openness to receive. It requires you to set down, just for a few minutes, the story you've been telling yourself about how this all ends. Because most people, when they're in the middle of this kind of pain, have already written the final chapter in their mind. They've already decided what the outcome means. They've already concluded that the silence is permanent, that the distance is a verdict, that the way things look right now is the way things will always be. And the angels, with enormous compassion and a kind of loving urgency, are asking you to put that story down, because what they see, what they observe from their position outside of time, is that the story is still being written. Here is a truth about time that the angels communicate in a way that is almost impossible to fully translate into human language. But I'm going to try. From where we stand, time moves in one direction. Yesterday is fixed. Tomorrow is uncertain. The present is all we have access to. But the angels do not experience time this way. They exist in what you might call the fullness of time, where past, present, and future are not three separate rooms, but one continuous living landscape. And from that landscape, they can see things that we cannot. They can see trajectories. They can see the arc of a soul's journey. They can see where unresolved energy is moving, even when the movement is invisible to human eyes. And what they see around the connection you're carrying, what they observe in the energetic field between you and this person, is not a closed door. It is a door that is being stood in front of, hesitated in front of, a door that someone keeps approaching and then stepping back from, approaching and stepping back from, in a cycle that has been repeating longer than you probably know. The angels describe this pattern with a word that I find extraordinarily moving. They call it hovering. The person who left is hovering. Not gone, not free, not at peace with the choice they made. hovering in that in-between space where the pull of what they walked away from is in constant, quiet, unrelenting conversation with a fear that made them leave. Now I want to speak directly to something you may be feeling right now as you listen to this, because some of you are feeling hope rising, and some of you are feeling something more complicated than hope. Some of you are feeling a kind of protective resistance, a voice inside that says, don't go there, don't let yourself hope, you've been hurt before. And I want you to know that the angels see that voice too. They honor it. That voice was built to keep you safe, and it has served a real purpose. But there's a difference, a very important difference, between protecting yourself from false hope and closing yourself off from a divine message that was specifically arranged to reach you today. The angels did not bring this message to reopen a wound. They brought it to offer you a different way of seeing, a wider lens, a more complete picture. Think about a photograph taken from too close. When the camera is pressed right up against the subject, all you see is blur. You can't make out shapes. You can't understand what you're looking at. But when you step back, when you gain perspective, when you allow more to frame into the picture, suddenly everything comes into focus. Suddenly you can see the full image. Suddenly what looked like chaos reveals itself as something with structure, with meaning, with a composition that actually makes sense. The angels are asking you to step back from the close-up today, to let more of the picture into your frame, because what looks like abandonment from close-up looks very different from where they stand. From where the angels stand, they see two souls who collided with enormous significance. They see an impact that neither fully processed. They see one soul who is healing, who is growing, who is, through the very pain of this experience, becoming more aligned with their truest self. And they see another soul who is caught, who is somewhere between who they were and who they are being called to become, who is living in that uncomfortable in-between space that always precedes a breakthrough or a breaking open. And the angels are present with both of you in that space, holding both of you, watching both trajectories with a kind of patient, unwavering love that doesn't flinch at human messiness or human fear. There is a moment that the angels describe, a moment that happens inside every person who has ever walked away from something real. And it is a moment that most people never talk about because it feels too vulnerable, too exposing, too close to an admission they're not ready to make out loud. The angels call it the recognition moment, and it happens differently for different people. For some it comes suddenly, like a wave that knocks you off your feet when you weren't watching the water. For others it builds slowly, accumulating quietly over weeks and months until the weight of it becomes impossible to ignore. But for everyone who has ever left a genuine soul connection behind, this moment comes. Without exception, without fail, the angels are absolute about this. The recognition moment is the instant when all the justifications fall away. All the reasons that felt so solid, so logical, so convincing at the time. The timing isn't right. I need to focus on myself. It's too complicated. I'm not ready. Those reasons, which once felt like walls, suddenly reveal themselves for what they actually were. Defenses. Constructions of a frightened mind trying to protect a heart that didn't know how to stay open. And in the recognition moment, the person sees clearly, perhaps for the first time with genuine clarity, what they actually had, what they actually chose to walk away from. And the weight of that seeing is unlike anything else in the human emotional experience. I want you to understand something about the nature of this recognition, because it matters deeply for where you are right now in your own journey. The recognition moment is not comfortable for the person experiencing it. It does not feel like relief. It does not feel like a gentle awakening. It feels at first like grief, like standing in a room and realizing something precious is gone and the goneness of it is entirely connected to a choice that was entirely yours. That specific flavor of grief, the grief of self-caused loss, is one of the heaviest things a human soul carries. And the angels, in their infinite compassion, do not look away from it. They move closer to it. They sit in it with the person who is experiencing it, because they understand that this grief, as painful as it is also a doorway. It is the doorway through which genuine transformation becomes possible. Now here is where I need you to really stay present with me, because this is perhaps the most important thing the angels are communicating in this entire message. The recognition moment that this person is either already in or moving toward is not something that happens to them separately from you. It is not an isolated private experience that has no connection to your own journey. In the spiritual framework that the angels operate within, two souls who have formed a genuine energetic bond are always affecting each other's growth, even across distance, even across silence, even across circumstances that look, from the outside, like complete disconnection. Your healing affects them. Your growth affects them. The way you choose to move through this experience, with grace, with faith, with commitment to your own expansion, sends a frequency into the shared energetic field between you that is more powerful than any text message, any phone call, any human attempt at reconnection. Let me give you a moment to feel the significance of that, because what the angels are saying is that you are not powerless in this situation. You have never been powerless. The most potent thing you can do, more potent than any action, any word, any strategy, is to commit to becoming the fullest, most healed, most luminous version of yourself. Not as a tactic, not as a way to make them come back, but as a genuine act of self-devotion that also, in the mysterious and beautiful way that spiritual energy works, creates the conditions for truth to emerge on both sides of this connection. Think about tuning forks. When you strike one tuning fork, a second tuning fork nearby begins to vibrate at the same frequency without being touched. This is not metaphor. This is physics. And the angels use this principle constantly in their work of bringing souls back into alignment. When you raise your frequency, when you heal, when you grow, when you step into the truth of who you are, you strike a tone that resonates in the field around you. And if there is someone whose soul is tuned to your frequency, someone who has felt your particular vibration and recognized it as something irreplaceable, they feel that tone, even from a distance, even through silence. Even when neither of you has any visible reason to believe the connection is still alive, it is still alive. The angels want you to know that with every ounce of certainty they carry, what is real does not simply cease to be real because human fear intervened. What is true does not stop being true because someone wasn't ready to face it. The connection you had, the depth of what existed between you, the significance of what was built in the space where two souls met honestly, that does not dissolve. It waits. It pulses quietly in the energetic field between you, and the angels are tending to it with a care and a patience that goes far beyond what human understanding can fully grasp. If you have made it this far into this video with me, I want to stop for just a moment and speak to you directly, not as a viewer, but as someone who was meant to find this message today. The fact that you are still here, still listening, still open enough to receive what the angels are sharing, that tells me something about who you are. It tells me you are someone who takes their spiritual journey seriously. Someone who understands that healing is not surface level. Someone who is committed to truth even when truth is uncomfortable and complex and asks more of you than easy answers ever could. And if that resonates, if that describes even a part of who you are, then I want to personally invite you to subscribe to this channel and join our community. We share these angel messages every single day, and every single day there is something here that was arranged specifically for people like you. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and come back tomorrow, because what the angels have to say to you is not a one-time message. It is an ongoing conversation, and you deserve to be part of it every day. Now, because the angels never leave a message unfinished, let's talk about what comes after the recognition. What comes after the regret? What the divine actually intends for you on the other side of all of this? What comes after regret? On their side. And what comes after pain? On yours. Is something the angels describe with a word that carries more weight than it is usually given. That word is restoration, not repetition. Not a return to exactly what was, but a restoration, a coming back into truth, into alignment, into the fullness of what was always meant to be expressed between two souls who found each other for reasons that go far deeper than either of them consciously understood at the time. Restoration does not always look the way we expect it to look, and the angels are very gentle but very honest about this. Sometimes restoration means two people finding their way back to each other, older, wiser, more healed, more ready, carrying the hard-won understanding that only real distance and real longing can produce. Sometimes it means a conversation that finally says what needed to be said, a moment of genuine acknowledgement that releases both souls from the weight of what was left unspoken. And sometimes, And this is the part that requires the deepest faith. Restoration happens entirely within you. It happens when you reach a place of such genuine peace, such complete wholeness, such unshakable knowledge of your own worth, that the outcome on the other side no longer defines your sense of self. When you arrive at that place, something miraculous happens. The angels describe it as a moment when a soul stops asking to be chosen and simply stands in the radiant certainty of their own choosing. And from that place, from that frequency of wholeness, everything shifts. The energy around you shifts. The possibilities available to you shift. And what was stuck begins finally to move. I want to speak now to the part of you that is tired. Because if you've been carrying this for a long time, if you've been holding hope and grief and confusion and love all at once for weeks or months or longer, you are tired in a way that goes beyond physical exhaustion. You are tired in your soul. And the angels see that tiredness not as weakness, but as evidence of how deeply you loved, how genuinely you showed up, how real your heart is. Tired souls are not broken souls. Tired souls are souls who gave everything they had to something that mattered. And the angels honor that giving with a reverence that I wish I had better words to convey. Here is what they want to leave you with today. They want you to know that you are not waiting in vain, even if it feels that way. Even if the silence has been long and the evidence has been scarce and the rational part of your mind has told you 100 times to let it go and move on. The angels do not operate on human timelines. They do not measure significance by the speed of outcomes. They measure it by the depth of truth. And the truth of what you carry, the truth of what you shared, the truth of the impact you made, the truth of the regret on the other side that we have spent this entire message exploring, that truth is working. It is moving through the energetic field between you like a slow, steady, unstoppable current. You cannot see it, but it is there. The angels see it clearly. And finally, this is perhaps the most tender thing they want to say. They want you to take care of yourself the way you took care of that connection, with that same devotion, that same patience, that same refusal to give up on something real. Turn that love inward. Feed yourself with it. Heal yourself with it. Become so full of it that you overflow with it into every room you enter, every conversation you have. Every morning you choose to rise and face another day with your heart still open, because an open heart, in a world that constantly pressures people to close and harden and protect, an open heart is not a vulnerability. It is a superpower. It is the most powerful thing the angels have ever witnessed in a human being. And yours, your particular, beautiful, tired, still beating, still believing heart, is one they're watching over with an attention and a tenderness that never wavers. You were not too much. You were not too little. You were exactly what that person needed and was not yet ready to keep. And that is their story to finish. Yours is just beginning. The angels are with you. They always have been, and they are not done speaking to you yet.